So this is different. I have something to read off of Twitter.
I'm intrigued.
I am hearing that on his deathbed, Rush Limbaugh received the light of his Islam and unhesitatingly recited the Shahada. Even now he looks down on the Ummah from the gardens of Jannah. Truly there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet.
So that's why you were looking up the pronunciation of various words.
Yeah. I'm sure they butchered. No, congratulations. I mean, it's so great that he can finally get some redemption in his glory of God and be in the kingdom of heaven with his prophet Muhammad.
Except
Rush Limbaugh's.
I don't think even that would save him. Rest in piss, Rush.
Dude, fuck that guy. He's fucking burning hell, you piece of shit. Glad he's dead. And it's like, yeah, like people dying, like one of the Koch brothers died. Well, they still, made America what it is now when they won. Mm-hmm. But fuck them. You can piss on their grave. You got to get some...
Yeah, for someone that hates gender-neutral bathrooms so much, props to Rush for
creating another one.
That's
right.
Another.
Margaret Thatcher created the first one in the world, and Rush created the first one in the United States. Rush Limbaugh. In case you need to use the bathroom, look up his address. His current and now permanent address. Fuck that guy.
Oh, fuck Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, so you can be happy about his death. You got to get happiness where you can get it.
That was the second thing on the list of stuff that I wanted to talk about today. But while we're on the topic...
But first, let me introduce the podcast. This is Two Roommates with a Podcast. I'm Brent. My pronouns are he and him.
Hi, my name is Kirk. My pronouns are any and all, preferably they, them, if you want to, be nice.
Excellent. So what were you gonna say?
Rush Limbaugh dying was the highlight.
Oh yeah, that
one
sounds
of the
so
highlights. Good. It's the highlight that is an actual highlight.
Oh,
it's the silver lining on the cloud of Mercury that's just hovering over
the greater continental,
slowly killing us all.
You mean the greater continental United States?
Yes.
Snowstorm.
But. Speaking of the snowstorm, we'll talk about that later, though, because it's a lot more depressing.
Wow, that's a nice tease.
Do we
weather.
have anything more to talk about Rush Limbaugh? Because it reminded me of the time you killed H.W. Bush.
Oh, yeah, I did kill H.W.
Yeah. We were playing D&D, and, we're just having a good time. We're talking, and then Brent says, What's up with H.W. Bush? Is he dead? And I go, what? No, H.W. Bush is still alive. He's not dying for another 3 to 30 fucking years.
Because those people don't die.
Yeah, these people don't die. They go, they get money pumped into their veins.
They get the super steroids. They get the adrenochromes. They get the children's brains.
I'm like, there's no way he's dying. And then we talked about it very briefly, mostly in passing, and then we continue playing D&D.
About 40 minutes later?
About an hour later, we're done with D&D. We all go downstairs into the kitchen at the apartment, and I pull out my phone, and I have a news alert from NPR. And NPR News says, H.W. Bush died earlier this evening of complications from cancer or something.
And if you think about it, that news takes a little bit to get out. So I may have asked that question at the exact moment the last stupid breath from his body was leaving. Rest in peace, JFK. You haven't gotten your rest yet, but fucking we will get it. Dude, H.W. famously, when asked, where were you when Kennedy was assassinated? You know what his answer was? Somewhere in Texas. Okay, so I'm not a huge conspiracy person because billionaires control everything. That's enough for me. But the Kennedy assassination, literally any motherfucker over the age of, 70 or 80 at this point, you ask them, where were you when you found out? They know where they were. They know the time. There was one time he got assassinated. But they know the clothes they were wearing. But HW, I was in Texas. What the fuck? What the fuck does that mean?
The grassy knoll.
Right, so that's the only thing that bugs me out.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, I'm way too loud, so that whisper came through like a fucking bell on high.
No, I think I figured it out. The microphone's about 3/4 towards me, because apparently I'm quiet and Kirk's loud as fuck. So this is balancing it out.
I'm always loud. Okay, so while we're talking about current news and old news with H.W. Bush,
old bitch dead, new bitch just died.
Texas is doing the fascist eugenics thing.
Oh, that's cool.
That I talked about. You know, that conspiracy theory when we were talking about reopening schools and, like, this is a fascist eugenics.
Well, not in the sense that, like, they do want poor people to not have kids.
Yes.
Because they are inhumane.
Texas is doing the exact same thing. Texas has been underfunding, refusing to work on their infrastructure. And now they have, quote-unquote, rolling blackouts. AKA, one neighborhood loses power at 2:30 in the morning, and 5 days later, the power is still not restored, but the wealthy neighborhood that lives just a couple miles away has had uninterrupted power this whole time. Texas is doing the fascist eugenics thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
And liberals... God, we love them.
We do.
They are complicit.
Well, man, it's Texas. I mean, so the funny thing about that is, like, is it malicious, or is it you just don't fund the things poor people use, you only fund the things rich people use? Is there a difference between those two things? Not really. Either way, poor people get fucked.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a level of intent.
Also,
but either way, poor people get cold in the snow.
Also, so this whole power crisis thing going on in Texas, right? You'd be happy to know that, like, the Texas legislature or the board of whatever monopoly runs the Texas power grid, they scheduled, like, an emergency meeting to make some decisions regarding what's going on. And instead of saying, okay, we need to take, like, emergency actions, we need to, like, bring in portable generators and, like, try and make sure that people actually have power so they don't freeze to death. They said that because power is a finite resource, it is ruled by the laws of supply and demand. And now that there is so much demand, but so little supply
and demand,
they're going to immediately change the pricing of electricity. So, like, if you are, if you are a single mother, and you're raising your 2 kids, and you live in this small house, and you're lucky enough to have power, but you haven't worked for the past couple months because raising kids and COVID, you probably got furloughed at your job. If you're lucky enough to have power, you can be charged an absurd amount because you're using power, and the demand is so high they can charge whatever the fuck they want.
Do you have specifics on what they're charging?
I don't, unfortunately.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
It sounds
like you don't have concrete evidence.
It sounds like you're a stupid leftist with no facts. Get fucked.
And okay, so, like, on the one hand, I understand, like, the Schadenfreude of pointing to, like, a place that you just inherently associate with being bad. We did this with Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh died.
No. But that's liberals... No, Rush Limbaugh is an individual who sucks ass and has done horrible things. But to the people of Texas, most of them are just average people who are just trying to make it. So them being cold in their homes is not a good thing.
Yeah. So if you're on Twitter and you're currently responding to people who are like, someone please send us money.
Sounds like you should have voted blue.
Winter supplies. It sounds like you should have voted blue, even though Texas was 48 Democratic in the last election.
Sounds like you should have elected Beto. He would have made sure you had power.
Yeah, and it's like the very people that you were pointing to and then telling this are the people who are either already Democratic voters or they're in that large base in the middle, which could switch one way or another. Like, I'm not saying that centrism is correct. I'm just saying there's a group of people who are amenable to certain policies, and making fun of them is not going to get them on your side, but rallying around supplying power to these people, getting them money and food, and making sure no one dies of the cold, that's how you shift that voting bloc from Republican or non-voting to Democrat or left-wing.
Again, that's why I think Twitter should get burned down. Despite that, follow us on @2roommatespod. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, because, again, it's very fun to gather around and make fun of someone, ergo Rush Limbaugh. But then, that's every time there's a natural disaster in the South or some shit, mm-hmm. people always go, well, this is what you deserve because there's somehow universal justice because you voted Republican, which is why you should be fucking cold in February mm-hmm. in the fucking United States.
Yeah, and you
a supposedly advanced country.
Yeah, you are complicit for all of the crimes of the people who live in the state that you live in. However, not all Americans are imperialist pig dogs. I, for one, happen to be. All Americans are complicit in American crimes, unless you, really go out of your way to fight it, but liberals don't. They just want the best of both worlds.
Yeah, so...
making fun of people they perceive as bad, but also they don't want to be called bad.
I don't want to be called bad. I'm good.
True, I don't want to be called bad either.
I'm great.
So today, sorry if this is such a tonal whiplash. I don't know what a segue is.
You know what's not a segue is talking about how you don't know how to transition to your next talking point.
Earlier today, I had a customer call, and my customer service voice is really high pitched. Right now, I'm probably coming across the middle of my register.
Right.
This is the middle of my register. I can go really low if I really want. And I can also go hey, thank you for calling. How can I help you today? Really high.
How can I help you, little piggy? You want some help? Is your shit broken and you're too dumb to look up a YouTube video?
And this customer, I introduced myself, and then this customer called me ma'am.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay.
High five.
Yeah.
Wait, let's pick... Oh.
Ooh, nice and loud. But yeah, called me ma'am, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I talk for a bit, and then he calls me dear, and then he calls me miss, and he called me, feminine pronouns.
Did he call you a hot piece of ass?
No, he didn't call me dear, though. Okay. Said I was sweet.
I think you're sweet.
But so he used so much, so many femininely charged words in such a short amount of time. I'm like, I have to keep a high voice. I don't want to breathe. Because sometimes my voice will just drop down to a more comfortable register, and I'm like, I cannot.
Kirk, what an interesting
make this poor man listen to me go I'm looking at it right now, and have him go, what the fuck?
Maybe that could have been your deed for the day is go, I don't understand people, and maybe that could have made them.
Yeah. And I mean, and if anyone asked me, I'd just be like, oh, I happen to have a low voice. Mm-hmm. When I was young, I got sick and I coughed a lot, and then I just have a low voice.
And now that's hot whispered into my ear.
But also, it's about 50-50 whether someone calls me ma'am or miss, and whether someone calls me sir. It's about 50-50.
That old traditional girl's name, Kirk.
And there's actually... most people don't actually hear that. They hear, Chris. And, Chris or Kirsty or something.
Huh.
Sometimes they hear a name that's not even remotely close. And, that makes me feel very nice about the fact I had a speech impediment as a kid. There's still remnants there.
Nice. Here, if you want a tonal shift back, something I wrote down is talking politics with your parents and your relationship with politics and your family. Especially in the throes of college as a young lad, those 2 years ago.
Those days.
I I talked a lot more politics with my parents just because, like, I was trying to figure out what I believed in, kind of like understand it, have the sparring debates with your family about the merits. But then I realized, like, I realized I just fucking hate it because, like, it's hard talking to your parents and them, like, being decent people. I'm lucky. My parents are, good people. But their politics are just, like, they're just, not humanist. They don't, believe in humanity is decent. And, like, having to, like, reconcile that and then maintain, like, the father-son relationship, it just puts a fucking strain on it when I'm like raising my voice over healthcare policy in America. And I realize, like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's in my head. I finally came to the conclusion of, I know what my politics are, and I'm gonna love my dad no matter what. So if I want to enact my politics, I'm gonna go out and be an activist. I'm gonna go either sign people up for a union, or I'm gonna do something with the DSA or something. And if I care so much, that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm not going to achieve the goals I want to achieve by yelling at my dad about why people deserve health care.
And I think, kind of piggybacking off of that, because I have a conservative family as well. I'm like the political black sheep, socialist and whatnot in a conservative household. And what I've picked up on is we have a lot of very similar ideological viewpoints, where it's like, my family feels very strongly that, like, that family and friends are the most important thing, and you have to make sure that they're taken care of. Whereas my ideology is, yes, but also every person is important and deserves to be valued and taken care of. And like, kind of coming to terms with that and saying we think about things in a somewhat similar way.
Right. I have the same phenomenon where me and my parents will hit the same point of, like, there are people in government or business that are bad. Like, they're making it hard for everyone. We make it like we follow these steps and these checkpoints, and then right up until the decision of, okay, what do we do? And then we're across, like, a fucking chasm. And
yeah,
I've learned, I guess, bridging that chasm, it doesn't really matter for my relationship to them. So I'm just not going to worry about it because it doesn't change how I feel about them. And I'm confident enough in my beliefs that I know what I believe in, and if I want to act, I know how I could act.
Yeah. And another thing, too, is in a lot of these cases, unless it is explicitly political, they don't really care. Like, they'll repeat whatever they hear because, it's like, it doesn't really affect them. But especially, like, coming out to my family as being, like, non-binary, transgender, speaking with them and, like, talking about how, like, how I feel and why I think I'm this way and what this means moving forward and for the family and everything, they were very open and accepting. Because ideologically, they care more about, like, family than they do about whatever someone said on Fox News 10 years ago. So it's like, if you can find a way to make these issues, like, personal and relevant, you're more likely to get headway than just talking about, like, policy proposals and statistics and...
Right, it's to construct a narrative and a story that they could appreciate. And I guess I'm not saying, like, tolerate, like, fucking bigotry or something. I don't do that. But in terms of, like, who should get taxed more, or what do we think about, like, when should we get out of Iraq, like that sort of thing, like that. The more, not that Iraq's not a big deal, but yeah, there's a difference. So I've just learned to just I've noticed I feel much better about my family now that I don't talk about politics. And it's just, I feel like I like my parents more, which is good. I want to like them. So if that means, not talking about politics, but occasionally, especially like over the summer, during the protests. There was a video in Minnesota where, like, I think it was just a woman was standing on her front porch just filming the fucking police militia walking by, and they were just barking at everyone to get inside their house, and then like 6 SWAT guys just all simultaneously turned to her and just started firing like those like beanbag rounds or the rubber rounds and like breaking windows and shit. And I showed that to my dad. I'm like, that was in fucking Minnesota. Like those 6 guys. I'm like, because, you know, he's more of a libertarian guy where he's like, he wants to be left alone. He likes his property, you know, all that jazz. And I'm like, these fucking cops just shot up this person's house because they were standing on their front porch. And he didn't have an answer for that, and we just moved on. So I like doing that because I like. I guess it's maybe like picking your battles where I want to poke where I know I could poke. Because like, imagine standing on your front fucking porch and a fat ass pig does that to you. Yeah. What the fuck?
Well, I thought earlier, you know, like with the George Floyd, I thought that we actually made like headway with my parents because it was the first time I've ever heard them refer to like the murder, the unjustifiable murder of a black person. It's the first time I've ever heard them go, I think maybe the cops went too far.
I mean, when you have an 8-minute video.
And that was great. And I talked with them, and I'm like, so you understand, like, why I feel the way I do when other, you know, unarmed black people are killed, even under suspicion of having a weapon, because, like, this is a step too far. And I actually made a little bit of headway. And then, like, 3 days later, Fox News said, well, actually, he committed crimes 25 years earlier. And it's like that scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with the golden ticket. Suddenly, they didn't care about the police brutality.
Excuse. Right. That's it. In politics, I am a believer in the Overton window, which, for those who don't know, that's the idea where there's a certain range of discourse that's acceptable, and then outside that, and you want to, like, move the window towards you. So like it being in the public consciousness, like police brutality, that's, you know, that's still a thing. That's not something from like the LA riots and Rodney King. Like that happens every fucking day, and it's going to keep happening. And I think in a similar way to like what Bernie did with the 99% versus 1%, which I also think is now in the consciousness, like I think that's a good thing because that, I don't know, it provides some sort of like psychological baseline, or if you want to get really Freudian, like something, or Jungian, like, you know, something in the public consciousness is now there that pigs fucking kill black people. Like that is in there one way or another, and now you can mine it, and hopefully something good will come out of that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, when you have a fucking 9-minute video of a cop fucking just executing a guy in the middle of Minnesota, there's not a lot of spinning you can do with that. The man just executed George Floyd. Yeah,
like, and the method, too. It's not like, oh, he thought he had a gun, so he shot.
Right, there was cops. He was on his neck. There's nothing.
And, it turns out all it takes is the extreme, brutal, extrajudicial murder of an unarmed black person. All we need is just someone who has a spotless record that you can't even possibly construe as having any ties to.
Dude, he got a fucking B- in geometry. Take him out.
that probably would be a failed academic student.
Now, actually, I've uncovered evidence. This is my Ben Shapiro. I've uncovered evidence. So no, actually, he, in one of his midterms, he actually had a cheat sheet. So therefore, he needed to be taken and removed from society because he did. So no, there's always going to be, in every murdered person, there's always something about their past that could be.
Why are we talking about Bjork Chesapeake?
Who's that?
Ben Shapiro.
Oh, Bjork Chesapeake. Bjork Chesapeake.
It's because, you know, that's one of the things I like to do is just mess around with names of people I don't really like, and I picked that up from the days of yore on Tumblr, referring to Benedict Cumberbatch. But occasionally, like, I'll come up with good ones, like Mitch crossing the Trubiscon, or Mitch Trubisky. That was a really good one.
Yeah, he fucking fell in it. Yeah, he fell in the Rubicon. That's what I do with Jeffrey's tubes. So in Star Trek, they made Jeffrey's tubes a lot. So I keep saying like Johnny's Tumbles or
Johnny's Tumbles.
Yeah, Johnny's Tumbles. No, a Johnny, or a Jack Tankard, and it's been going on a while. So I'm really stretching the fucking like a Jane and another fucking T word because I am losing it.
Tetanus.
Jane's tetanus. You know that Jeffrey's tube. you go in your mouth, you get lockjaw. You come out, you can't talk.
Have to get a booster.
Then you got to get like a Geordie visor, but for your chin. It's just
fun fact: the visor is actually called Visor.
Visor.
Visor. VISOR. It's like visual implant something.
Huh.
They just call it Visor. The little like data pads that they have, I call them data pads because that's what they're called in Star Wars. Those are just pads. PADD.
Nice.
A lot of Star Trek is actually just like they called it the Visor, and then they're like, well, what is it though? Like, does it have a name? And they're like, I don't know, it's Visor.
I don't know what you want him. It's Visor. He's in the future. He can see. He's a blind man who can see, and you're questioning me?
Yeah.
Well, my semantics? I brought sight to the sightless. I'm Steve Visor. How dare you question my will? I bring sight to the sightless.
Oh.
Steve Visor.
Steve Visor. Fuck. Oh, Christ. Star Trek is good. Can you believe fucking Picard was relieved of command?
Yeah, we're in the middle.
I'm really anxious to see how old Jean-Luc gets out of this one.
Yeah, we're in the middle of I think it's Chain of Command Part 1 in Season 6. Tomorrow we're going to watch Part 2. Yeah, Jean-Luc got captured and he got relieved of command. I have no idea what's going to happen. Oh, boy. Dude, fucking Kim Kardashian. She's such a bitch to him. These Kardashians.
Clever.
But, it's the last politics thing I had. I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but it's been back in the news. The warehouse in Alabama for Amazon, they're one that's trying to unionize. Fucking sweet, good for them.
Yeah,
and that's another thing.
I think you brought that up last time. Do we have any news?
No,
Has Amazon burned it down?
I didn't bring. Well, maybe I brought it up. Oh yeah, and then the Google workers are also unionizing, which I have less faith in them because
Alphabet Workers Union.
Yeah, because tech people, including myself, cannot be trusted. Are not comrades in the revolution. Do not listen to anything I say. But the warehouse workers,
Google Workers Union is actually fairly good. They're saying Google forces us to work like long hours and like very long weeks and. These aren't even like the people that work in the place with like the slides or anything. I don't think. I think they're, and even if they were the people who worked in a place with slides, you are perfectly within your right to say, having a slide and beanbag chairs and pizza parties every Friday not...
Well, no, they're just doing that because they want you to stay at the office for 80 hours a week. You get a pizza party, and you also work 80 hours a week unpaid overtime.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why. And I believe the Alphabet Workers Union may be...
I mean, everyone deserves a union except for the police. Except for the police.
Yeah, but I think the Alphabet Workers Union may be a bit of one of like the more radical unions where it's like they have a concrete idea of what they want.
Yeah, not to work fucking 80 hours a week in some sweatshop where a guy is like giving them candy or candy speed so they can code faster.
Oh.
Submit my fucking pull request. I can see in 4 dimensions.
But yeah, I wish, dude, that like I wish unions were strong again.
No, but
I wish unions were cool again.
But that's why I'm talking about the Amazon thing. Like, that's a significant thing. I read that there's 6,000 people in that warehouse alone. Like, 6,000 people in one warehouse in Alabama. Like, if that spreads across the United States, that will be a sizable portion of America that is now in a union. So, no, that's very exciting news, and I'm very happy to hear about it. Hopefully, it goes through. But at the very least, it's the first attempt at a union of Amazon. It's a good thing no matter what.
There were apparently strikes at some fast food restaurants yesterday, I think. Like some stores within the McDonald's chain, Burger King, and I think Wendy's.
Nice.
There's like an initiative to push for $15 an hour. Especially now during Black Heritage Month, like traditionally these companies are all work is exploited labor, and these companies exploit the labor of a lot of
people of color.
During Black History Month, when all of these major companies start going, we care about you.
We care about black people. Not enough to pay you more, but we will say nice things in commercials.
We will feature you in a commercial with white friends who are accepting of your unfortunate condition.
Boy, we don't know how you got to America, but we're sure happy you did. Happy Black History Month, Kirk. Oh.
Yeah,
dude, we had McDonald's the other day. Pretty good. I took a break from McDonald's. I needed a couple month break to like appreciate it again. I came back. Boy, they make some good fucking chicken McNuggets. I don't care if they cost a little bit extra. I want my nuggies. I'll always pay for it. Fucking McDonald's.
So we got humidifiers for the apartment a while ago, and
humidifiers.
I got a good humidifier.
Kirk, that's like the same level as a pencil.
Well, no, I want to talk about it. We're dry boys and we deserve moisture.
It's true, we are dry boys. It's fucking dry in this apartment.
Yeah, my room, I got it up to about 45.
Because the heat is just...
When it was gradual, I didn't notice. But I left my room, I came back, and I was like, I gotta turn this puppy down.
No, I walked into Kirk's room for a minute. I was like, Jesus Christ, I just walked into a different, like, ecology. It's intense. But yeah, so we have the heat running all the time because it's negative, like, fucking 10 outside. So that's our noses are like shriveled up little sponges, and we're begging for water. water everywhere.
Yeah, I got it up to about 37 today, and that was the magical amount of humidity for like everything in my nose to turn from like dry to I can actually like blow my nose. Yeah. So that was nice. I could breathe very clearly.
And we turned off the humidifier, so you're welcome, listeners. So there's like
you don't have
dull
to hear
hymn in the background.
It's a very quiet humidifier.
It probably wouldn't even been picked up. But
the only thing you might have heard is maybe like the occasional gurgle.
Gurgle.
Little gurgles. Darling, I must go now. Must we sell it?
I wrote down some podcast ideas. I wrote down at-home maintenance. Funny. I hated I put up like just some plastic wrap on some windows because the apartment has fucking hit its limit. Again, this is two roommates with the roommates part. The apartment is the third member of two roommates with a podcast. It hit its limit for getting warm.
Yeah, the heat was at 73 degrees while you were gone over the weekend.
Set at 73.
And it was like 65.
Ooh.
And I talked
That's
about
cold
this,
65,
yeah,
too.
and I talked about this in the thing. I'm like, it's not like a warm 65 where it's spring and it's a little chilly, but the sun's out, right. So it's like it's a nice warm. You don't really need a jacket. Right. This was like all of the heat was being leached out through the massive glass door and through the windows and through the cracks in the windows. And, like, as the heat was leached out, it was still 65, which is arguably a warm temperature, but it was a cold 65. It was not comfortable.
Right. But yeah, so I put up that shit, and that was, I'm not crafty. Kirk is definitely usually takes the point on the crafty stuff, but they were working, so I went for it. No, I wrote that down because I helped fix a toilet in my parents' house over the weekend, which is kind of fun. I learned some things about, like, maintenance and, like, how the fuck a toilet works, because, you know, I use it a lot. And I don't know what it does. It's just, you know, I pee in it, and then it magically goes away to the pee fairy, and I just go on with my day. No, there's like there's a fill valve and a flush valve, among other things. Also, Kohler is a brand of toilet. Sucks. We had to go to 3 stores to find the replacement part we needed.
Really? Kohler is a big name.
Yeah, no, now apparently they're fucking parts.
Oh. Yeah, like they're
and then my dad. Hey, speaking of politics,
and
then when we went to Lowe's, my dad found it, very excited, and then he took off his mask for a second, and I was like, "It's fine, no one's in the aisle, whatever." And then he started walking down, and I was like, "Dad," and I pointed to my mask, and he was like, "Whatever," and he's like, "You know, I'll tell you something." And I looked at him and went, "I don't care. I don't care. I don't care." Just not around me. You can't do it around me, and that was the end.
I don't want to be associated with
right. It's like I'm not gonna walk next to you if you don't have a mask. You're a leper, and you need to be put on a fucking island with all the other lepers, aka non-mask wearers.
No offense to lepers.
No, fucking lepers. You had it rough. It wasn't your fault. Somebody wasn't wearing a mask, and you contracted it. How is that your deal?
So I have 2 things remaining here that I just want to talk about.
Oh, I thought you just wrote it down to look at so that we can go.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
And
if only we had a podcast to discuss certain.
Yeah, if only we had something where you're like, yeah, if you ever want to like talk excitedly about something, like bring it. So the first thing is we were watching Best of the Worst by Red Letter Media. And they made a mention of, like, this guy in a B movie just digging random holes around a farm property. And
mind you of your childhood?
I did actually dig a very deep hole once.
Did you make it all the way to China?
I did.
I only made it a few feet when I tried.
No, I only made it, like, 4 feet deep.
That's pretty good hole.
That was still very deep.
That's a pretty deep hole, 4 feet. It's especially as a kid.
Yeah.
Actually, this was last week.
But no. And then it reminded me of the fact that it used to be common knowledge, and common knowledge does not mean correct.
Right.
But it used to be common knowledge that moisture is what makes plants grow, which is true. But the common knowledge part that we're talking about is that moisture is trapped in the ground. And the deeper you go, the more moisture there is. So if you want to grow plants in a very dry place, you plow very deep. You plow several times. You go as deep as you can go each time. And you unleash that moisture, and the plants grow better because of it.
No, you get like that. You're outside the town. You go into the farmstead. It's just a fucking 100-foot vertical drop, like SpongeBob, the deep top.
Now, so this was known like in traditional farming communities like Iowa and Illinois, which have a large abundance of topsoil.
Hell yeah, go Illinois, baby. Best fucking soil in America.
So like there, it's not as big of a deal, right? A little deeper is maybe a couple inches, and it doesn't matter. The soil is good enough to actually have the plants grow. You know, you're not like digging deep and unleashing moisture. Is this a story about the Dust Bowl? It is about the Dust Bowl. It was also very well known out in the the more conventionally West states. Oklahoma, Kansas? Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado. But yeah, so these farmers, during one of the worst droughts of their lives, said, well, there's moisture under the ground. So they started plowing deeper and deeper. Now, you may not know, plowing loosens the soil. And during a dust bowl, you kind of exacerbate the issue. You loosen up the soil, all the topsoil blows away, you go even deeper, all of like the next most valuable soil blows away. It was just like, because of bad science, it was a never-ending loop of things getting worse. And I didn't originally want to draw any comparisons, but I can't see any comparisons with a certain climate crisis and purporting that, like oil emissions aren't going to actually increase the global temperature of the Earth that much. And besides, we can use oil emissions to fund machines to suck the carbon out of the air. All we need is just a wholesale devotion to oil and coal to do this.
I didn't know that about the Dust Bowl. That's rough. That's like something out of like a movie or like just unwittingly making your situation just completely untenable.
Well, the other thing too about the Dust Bowl, which kind of plays into that unwittingly making the situation more untenable, is what do you do when the wheat that you sell is not as much as it used to be?
Price-wise?
You grow more wheat. Everyone is growing more wheat. You're producing way too much wheat, so the price of wheat keeps going down. But you still need to make money, so you grow more wheat. Because with more wheat, you'll make up that loss.
Sounds like instead of wheat, they should have been growing weed. Da-da-da, doo-doo-doo. Ah, this is a nice dust.
The Dust Bowl... The Dust Bowl.
I should edit in that song. Brent, that's your challenge for this episode.
Yeah, the Dust Bowl is a really interesting period of history to learn about. The history of socialism in Oklahoma specifically. There was one event called like the Corn March or the Corn Revolution. And it was like in 1920s, a coalition of white, black, and indigenous farmers just said, fuck this shit. We're tired of like toiling away and not making enough and starving and whatnot. So like they overcame racial boundaries and they started marching. And I believe the plan was to go all the way to D.C. And they only made it like maybe 20 miles over the course of a couple days. But what
just
happened,
missed it.
Yeah,
just missed DC.
Yeah, if I remember,
they made it on the county line.
Yeah. But no, if I remember correctly, what happened is one of the towns on the route had like some white supremacists in it. Because it is Oklahoma in the 1920s.
Whoops-a-daisy.
And the sheriff essentially is like, yeah, there's no fucking way that, like a multiracial coalition is marching through here. So what they did is they went out and they attacked the racial cohesion, the unity between the whites and the blacks and the indigenous people. And essentially, like, chipped away that entire white unit and then just fell upon the rest. With, like, batons and shit.
Cool.
If I remember that correctly, that's what happened.
Or Kirk has just been talking shit, and it's something they read in a book.
It is a really cool event. You should look it up.
I don't remember that chapter from Grapes of Wrath when the fucking town sheriff just fucking started lancing black farmers.
It probably did happen in the Grapes of Wrath.
That's true. John Steinbeck, you son of a bitch.
Oh, man. It reminds me of the time I read The Grapes of Wrath, and I got to a certain point, and I finished one page, and I looked at the next, and it was a page I had already read. So I went through, and I'm like, oh, all of these pages, like the last 30 pages, are from earlier in the book. So I must have been very close to the end. right? So he was probably wrapping it up, and then it was just a binding issue. I got like 30 pages out of someone else's book. So I pointed it out to the librarian, and they were going to like fix the book or get a new one to make up for the misprint. And then I was talking about The Grapes of Wrath with one of my friends a week later, and I mentioned that I thought it was kind of weird where it left off. And he goes, wait, you didn't read about like the abortion? And I'm like, the what? And he's like, yeah, the daughter, had like premarital sex or was raped, one of the two. Oh. And was pregnant, and then they had to like get an abortion, and then I believe she may have died as a result of the abortion, and then they like continued on to a shitty existence because it's about life in the Great Depression. And I'm like, yeah, I must have missed a decent chunk of the ending of that book.
I must have missed that little detail, nothing of consequence. Speaking of the Depression, I knew, before my great-grandfather basically succumbed to Alzheimer's, I knew him a little bit, and he grew up during the Depression in my hometown. And it's funny, like, even through, like, the Alzheimer's, it's like, just the shit that was like ingrained in him as a man was still there. Like what he would do with a ketchup bottle horrifies me to this day. Meaning just he would take a knife out of the big ketchup bottle and he would scrape it out of the bottom. Or like he'd put a little bit of water in after he scraped it, jiggled it up, put that right on his fries, that wet ketchup water. And he'd do it. And I always asked my dad, like, there's a new ketchup bottle. My dad was like, he grew up not knowing when he was ever going to eat. Like it doesn't matter how old he was or like how much of his memory had kind of faded away. Like him growing up in that era is permanently a part of him as a human.
Yeah, professional historians are now separating the Wall Street crash. Black Tuesday,
Black Monday.
Please. Shit.
Oh, history major doesn't even know when the stock market
to be
crashed.
Fair, they probably did also refer to it as Black Tuesday.
I'm gonna throw out a date. I think it was October 23rd.
October 19th.
Fuck. Well, I'm not the history bitch. No, keep talking.
Yeah, but they're starting to separate like the Wall Street crash.
October 24th. I was close.
Damn.
If this was Price is Right, I would have won. I was under a day.
Shit, shows you what I know.
Dude, stock market, baby.
But yeah, so professional historians are now like coming to the consensus that the Wall Street crash and the Great Depression, although coincidentally timed and close together, are probably not actually related. And that's, the economic effects of the Wall Street crash may have had repercussions that, like, affect the severity of the Great Depression, but they're classifying, like, the Great Depression as its own entity caused by, predominantly other factors.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's not how I learned it.
yeah, it's not how we learned it. And I look forward to like actually being an actual historian and then, tutoring like my sister's children about history and going, they're still teaching that, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's going to take about Texas school books about 70 years to get into it. I'm sure it'll be some black person's fault, though.
Well, with the quality of textbooks decreasing over time, I can only imagine in 70 years, it's going to be like, actually, American capitalism has never failed.
Actually, if that's true. Figuring out the ways in which our society does collapse and fail has particular interest to us. So I would looking forward to that. I wrote down, this was like Sunday night. I was falling asleep. And like, how you have those weird like brain thoughts as you come out?
Oh, yeah.
And occasionally you can like snap out of it for a second. And this is just what I wrote down. Survivor, like the TV show, where you be on that island, the reality TV show. So this is just what I said. Survivor, but it's on Little St. James. For those who don't know, Little St. James is Jeffrey Epstein's island. And I don't know quite what that like entails. Like, is it kids? Is it adults? Are the kids running away for something? Are the adults trying to get something? It just says Survivor, but it's on Little St. James. And I fucking laughed myself to sleep.
I forgot that this is a microphone, that me making the
It's
face
fine.
I made wouldn't be
We did
communicated.
just-
But that awkward silence is just about the face I made.
It was pretty good.
Like the eyes scrunched, the lips pursed, you know. Christ.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd watch that show. You get to see all our favorites. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, a lot of Bills. Jeffrey Epstein, of course. A lot of pedophiles were on that island. A lot of famous ones. Donald Trump.
He comes back.
That's true. It's all our favorites. Our favorite cast of characters coming back for one night only.
Think about all the ghosts
It's
haunting
pay-per-view.
that island,
Oh.
having spent their time there.
Do you think they run as fast as what they did when they were alive? Like a little 10-year-old just trying to run
No, I
across the
wasn't
sand?
talking about the ghosts of children.
Oh, well, I mean, not all of
I
them
was
made
talking
it.
about, good old Jeff himself, or Rush Limbaugh, probably.
I'm sure he was
Coke-
off lately.
The one Coke brother.
It's that classic line about Coca-Cola. Classic line, which is they funded death squads in South America, killed union activists, did basically just one of the world's most evil organizations. But what am I gonna do? Drink Pepsi? Ugh, that's gross. Can you drink Coke? Course. I mean, come on. What do you think this is?
The Capo Trap House bit?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, it's because that's my exact feeling. I mean, Coke is wonderful. A horrible, horrible company and should be seized by the people. But that formula should not change. That is staying.
Oh, so Brent's old Coke, not new Coke. New Coke doesn't exist anymore.
Well, yeah, except now it's just corn syrup instead of sugar. Mm-hmm. Which that's the theory.
And no cocaine.
God, cocaine. It's good.
You can always add the cocaine back in.
That's true. It's
if
just
you're committed.
It's just like, you add. It's like when you get a Diet Coke and then you add sugar back into it.
The only thing I would be okay with in a
libertarian,
in like a right wing libertarian paradise is Coca-Cola with the cocaine. I would try it. That's the only thing I would be okay with. Everything else, the literal slavery.
That's true.
The shooting people because you can. I hate that. But the Coca-Cola with cocaine, I would try.
That's the main intersection between leftists and libertarians is you should be able to do whatever drug you want. I'm not your fucking police state.
Mm-hmm.
That's
not all leftists, but the cool leftists.
That's true. Well, it's like, I mean, I think that's in some cities in America. Somehow they made it in like safe injection sites where you get needles, you can't get arrested, that sort of thing, because it's like
safe injection, needle exchange.
Because if you actually want to
free
do
Narcan, because if you actually want to do good,
and help people get off drugs and not just throw them in prison.
Yeah, you make sure that they do the drugs safely and you address the material concerns. And when you do that, then they start going, I'm no longer struggling to find a place to stay or struggling to feed myself. I don't really need drugs because life is fulfilling.
Or someone who's been strung out on heroin for 2 years can't magically just go to prison and then go, I guess I don't need it anymore because your body definitely doesn't fucking tear you apart by the seams.
Yeah, 2 years, I believe, your body kills you.
Right. Yeah, and also it's people aren't doing heroin because their life is fucking fantastic and they just want an extra pep in their step. They take a 5-hour energy drink in the morning. They shoot up a little bit, get their favorite spoon, have their bowl of bran flakes. There's a Reddit post I remember, and I don't know if it's true because it's on Reddit. But I remember it was somebody talking about their experience with heroin, which I mean it could be true because a lot of people are on drugs. And he was like, somebody asked the question, like, could you theoretically live a normal life while doing something like heroin? Like, if you were strong enough, could you possibly do that? And he was saying, or I think it was a guy, and he was saying basically no. I mean, obviously. And he was like, that's what I was doing. Like, I lived a, typical normal life. I had a house. I had a good, career, normal average guy. I was doing heroin, and it was just like over the course of months, about 6 months in, like, life just kept like deteriorating, forgetting where you are, when you are, what events do I have to go to, what meeting do I have to go to. And it's like life just kept deteriorating until he just basically couldn't like exist as a quote unquote normal person until it like, took him over. And eventually he was able to kick it, but it was like it consumed his entire being. Despite, before that being a relatively average guy.
Yeah, it had already affected his life, relationships with others, your employment.
Right. So that's why the solution is not to just throw them in jail and let that sort itself out.
Yeah. Fun fact, the recidivism rate in the United States is very extremely high. And I wonder if that has anything to do with making prison punitive as opposed to rehabilitative.
That can't do anything.
Where you don't like give anyone life skills, you don't let people go through therapy or straighten out what they're doing after prison so that they have a home and they have a job.
Or you give them life skills. You give them life skills for a job and then make it illegal to get that job. Like if you're a firefighter in California, when you're slave labor having to fight the fires, then you're legally not allowed to become a firefighter because if you're a felony, you can't be a firefighter. But we made you do it for free. And now that you're out of jail, you can't use any of those skills for. Also, like, wouldn't that be like the most public, like just trying to think of reforming somebody, like give them a skill, a noble job like firefighter, where you're literally like, you make good money, but it's because you do a dangerous task that's just basically for the good of society, and that's how you can reintroduce yourself because you have a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, you have these people fight fires. You give them all the training. You have them fight fires. They realize it's a very fulfilling job, and that's what they want to do after they leave. Hey, Brent, are former inmates allowed to be firefighters in California?
That's what I just said.
Oh.
What? Son of a bitch, Kurt.
Where have I been?
That's what I just said. What the fuck? Yeah, you feel shame. There's no one else. There's no TV.
There's no shame. There's no shame here.
Oh, there should be. If you don't have, maybe that's the problem. Get some more. You turn that dial up.
No, I have too much shame everywhere else in my life to worry about just talking over you.
You didn't talk over me. You just didn't listen. You're just not a good listener. This is the problem, Kirk. You never listen. I talk and you say, and you just ask me what's dinner.
Gosh. Yeah. I don't even like your cooking. But you
don't
like
say
the
that.
lobster, right?
Don't say that. Tell me you like my lobster. Tell me, Hark! Triton! Hark! Kirk just watched Lighthouse.
Oh, it's a good movie. I didn't understand why whenever I said, ooh, I hear the Lighthouse is good, Brent just kind of like looked at me blankly and said, it's heavy, I'm not up for it tonight.
Because I had already seen it before, Kirk.
Yeah, and I never understood why until I watched it, and I'm like, it's very good, I want to watch it again. Not on any conceivable immediate timetable. I'll watch it if we show Aaron.
Right.
Right. But like,
they got to introduce somebody to it. You can't just start again.
Yeah, it's like otherwise it would have to be maybe 3 or 4 years before I actually can watch it. And there was another movie like that, but I can't remember what movie it was.
I think that's an underrated part about friendships, is it's just an excuse to watch your favorite thing again. Yes. Like, I did that with True Detective. I did True Detective Season 1, fucking loved it. And then I was meaning to rewatch it, and I realized, like, the people I was living with in college, I'm like, oh, they haven't seen it yet. I can show them it, and that gives me an excuse to watch it, because then I can look at them, get their first reactions to all the twists and the turns.
I also don't know if it has to be, like, your favorite piece of media, but just something that was impactful in a way. Like, even if it made you go, what the fuck?
Right.
And the movie that I think kind of epitomizes this, at least in our group, is Synecdoche, New York, which is a very good movie. It's only like, 2.5 hours long, but 30 minutes in, you'll go, Jesus Christ, we're almost there. And then you'll check and you'll see you're 30 minutes in. It's just that much.
Oh, yeah. It was the great Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace. It's like every 15... No, he died of heroin.
Oh, oh yeah, that's right.
Speaking of which, like every 15 minutes in that movie, it's like I've been here for 2 weeks. Like we watched it in a dark room late one night, and it was just like every so often, we'd just be like, how long have we been fucking watching this movie?
Yep.
Because every second, like there's so much packed in. And it just feels like it keeps going and going. Good movie. It's fun to experience.
And the best anecdote I have about when they watched it was I had work. And I got back from work. And I did that classic thing I do of I have homework, I'm not doing work. So I just stand in the doorway of the living room.
Right. Not to commit.
Watching the movie.
Not to commit.
Not to commit to watching the movie. But I stand there. And I watched like a solid 20 minutes of it. And I asked how far we were in. And Doug was like, oh, we're like an hour and 30 minutes in.
Right.
And then we checked the time, and it was 40 minutes. I had only missed 20 minutes.
And
but between like then and when I came in, and then when I asked, like...
Time didn't...
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Kirk rewatched it, and they said, like, because they had missed part of it, but after you watch the beginning, you're like, that's how much I missed? Because the fucking movie, God. Whew. Mm-hmm. So yeah, watch Synecdoche. I don't know if it's for everyone. It's certainly interesting. So if you have, depending on your perception of time, 2 hours to 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's one of those films that's made by, who played Ozzy in that film we watched? He also directed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Ozzy?
Yeah, in the movie.
Which one?
That we watched last night. The Coen brothers. He played Osborn.
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich. So John Malkovich either wrote or directed or both Synecdoche, New York.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of the Malkovich films, which kind of, from what I hear, explains a lot.
John Malkovich is a weird guy. It got a 67%.
What the fuck? No, it should be rated much higher than that.
No, it's Charlie Kaufman. What are you talking about?
What? Charlie Kaufman? Is Charlie Kaufman the guy that did,
No, well, he wrote Inside or Being John Malkovich.
Oh,
God, Kirk.
He wrote Being John Malkovich.
And you started that. No, John Malkovich is an actor. Yeah, he wrote.
Yeah, I know John Malkovich is an actor.
Also a weird movie. Yeah, no, he.
I also thought he was like he wrote, directed, and
I thought John Cusack also wrote and directed the movie. He was inside John Malkovich, literally, in that film.
So kind of like that animated show on Cartoon Network where it's like this blue amoeba thing inside the human body. Osmosis Jones.
Play a little game where Kirk doesn't know the name of any director, film, actor, actress,
TV show,
artist, anything. And that's all my brain is. That's all it's filled with is bullshit information. So we play a little game where Kurt gives me a bunch of like setup and I try to figure out what they're talking about.
My favorite one was when I was describing a Pokemon and I'm like, no, I have this vivid idea.
Fuck you.
Of a
fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
He's got like a screw on his head and he looks a lot like Hitmontop and he spins and stuff.
And I was giving out shit like Bidoof, or there's been some lemur Pokemon, and I was giving out some fucking ideas, and I just said like, are you sure it's not Hitmontop? It sounds like Hitmontop.
Yeah. So what my brain did was it was Noggin Drill from children's TV shows of Boomafoo with the Krat brothers. Great show.
Fucking PBS
Wonderful
bullshit.
show.
I watched cable like a normal kid.
Great show though. And I had watched a thing going over like the history of Zaboomafoo, and was reminded of Noggin Drill, and it stuck in my head for like 2 months, like a tumor that hasn't become malignant yet, you know. And then it happened, and I was like, no, this has to be a Pokemon. What else would this weird creature be from?
Fucking, it wasn't a Pokemon. It was fucking PBS bullshit.
PBS is good. PBS was my lifeblood growing up. We have Arthur.
Dude just got a message in our group chat. That's right, because Kirk was a Puerto Rican growing up. I don't know. Gonna make that the thumbnail for this episode? No. So
guess.
So what I mean, like, Kirk had like jet black hair, bowl cut, tan as fuck.
Not bowl cut. It was not a bowl in the back.
It looks like a bowl from the front. So anyway, we've always and Kirk always got mistaken for Kirk as a child looked like a Puerto Rican. It's just.
Are you Hispanic? Are you Latino? Are you Pakistani?
My last name's. that was fucking German name.
And then at work, I was once asked if I was Jewish, and I was like, no, I'm not Jewish. Like, why do you think I am? And the guy goes, because of your last name. And I'm like, it's a German last name.
Oh, there were a lot of German Jews.
Also, I just realized I threw out my last name. Doxed myself.
I'll edit that out.
Okay. Yeah, it's a German name.
I gotta find.
It's a German name like Steiner or what the time code?
I know it.
Yeah, it's a German name like Steiner or Eisenbeck or
Steinbeck.
Steinbeck.
Hey. I mean, we're at 1 hour and 8.
Oh yeah, that
was good. All right, I think like the other week I thought it was a bad podcast. This one was a good one. I'd say this one was a good podcast.
Thank you for listening to our hour-long podcasts.
I think there's a correlation between how much beer I drink beforehand and how much I like the episode. So next week I'm just gonna get hammered and I'll really like the episode.
Mm-hmm. I also think you like it when I come with stuff to talk about.
I do enjoy it when you bring topics, such as humidifier.
We're a bunch of dry boys. And if years down the line you listen to this old thing and you want to refer to us as dry boys, it's not it's dry, D-R-Y, but boys is B-O-I-S.
That is correct, B-O-I-S.
Just because boy.
Alright, so yeah, links will be in the description. Follow us at Twitter at 2RoommatesPod. I shit on Rush Limbaugh a lot.
Until we forget he's dead.
Yeah, subscribe to our Patreon. It's also a link. I think it's like 2 Roommates with a Podcast or something like that. You can or you don't have to. I don't care.
I once again, so apparently last time I was not clear enough when I said I will send you lewds if you subscribe at $600 a month. I mean LEWDS, not Quaaludes.
Kirk will send you sexy pics. I might subscribe to the podcast just so I can see them. But oops. You legally have to, Kirk.
Legally have to. I did promise it. If someone actually does subscribe for $600 and the payment goes through, we get $600, I will do it. No guarantees it will look great, but this is going to happen months down the line, if not years down the line before someone does it. So at that point, I'll look better.
Sex work is real work. Go our sex worker allies. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
What a note. What a note.